Hi, this is Shannon Seaver, and today we're going to be looking at linear inequalities with one variable. This is part 2. Specifically, we'll be solving 3-part inequalities, and we're going to be doing some application problems. So let's look at these problems here, and notice that not only do we have one inequality, but we actually have two, and the variable is in between them. So we really need to set these up as, it's actually like two equations. If I want to solve x, I need to get the 3 away from the x. So not only am I going to separate here and here, there are two inequalities, I got to take away 3. I'm going to take away 3 on this side and 3 on this side to keep the balance.
What?
So now we will cancel out the 3's here. We still have a 2x in the middle. And 11 minus 3 is 8. And 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. Now we're going to solve for x. So we're going to divide everything by 2. So on this side we'll have a negative 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 4. If I'm going to graph that, I'm going to have negative 1 as a point, and notice that it has a line underneath it, so it will be solid, and 4. Make sure you label your graph. And the 4 will be an open dot, and we're going to connect those. So let's look at this one. We have 2/3 x minus 5. That's greater than negative 3, but less than negative 1. I'm going to multiply everything by 3 to get rid of this denominator. So times 3, times 3, times 3, times 3. So if I do that, I have a negative 9 here, and I have 2x minus 15 is less than negative 3. Now, to get x by itself, I'm going to add 15 to all 3 portions of this inequality. This will be 6 is less than 2x is less than 12. Now I can divide everything by 2. And then I'll have 3 is less than x is less than 6. So I'm going to draw that graph here. I'll have 3 here and 6 here. Open dots and then connect them. Take a moment to try C on your own and turn back on the video to check your work. Okay, so for this last one, you should have gotten 4 is less than x is less than 8. And the graph should have looked like this. Now here's some application problems. The first one, a number increased by 5 is at least 2 times the number. So if I say a number increased by 5, we're going to take 5 and add it to that number. And here's the word is, at least. That tells us that's our balancing point in the equation, and then we have an inequality there. So we know that it's going to be equal to or greater than 2 times the number, so that'll be 2n. We can solve for this by taking away an n from both sides. Then we'll have 5 is greater than or equal to n. So if I were to graph that, that means that 5 is larger than n, so we're going to have a solid dot here, and we will go to the left. The second one, if a quotient is 3 times a number and 5 is increased by 4, the result is no more than 34. So let's take this in parts. A quotient of 3 times a number, so that would be 3n, and it's a quotient, so it's kind of talking about these two things. So 3 times a number, and that's going to be over 5. And if it's increased by 4, so plus 4, the result is no more than 34. So it's going to be less than or equal to 34. So I'm going to take away 4 from both sides, and I have 3n over 5 is less than or equal to 30. If I multiplied both sides by 5, I would get 3n is less than or equal to 150, and then divide by 3. I would have n is less than or equal to 50. So our answer on this one is n is less than or equal to 50. If I were to draw that on the graph, it would be 50 with a solid dot and would be going to the left because n is smaller than the 50. This one is a very interesting application problem, and it's likely something that you will see on a quiz or a test. So you need to pay really close attention to this one. It's also something that you could use in practicality for your classes. To earn a B in a course, you must have a final average of at least 80%. So we know that's got to be greater than or equal to 80%. On the first three exams, you have grades 82%, 74%, and 78%. If the final exam counts for 2 grades, what must your final grade, what must you earn your final to be your, what must you get on the final to earn a B in the course? Okay, so you have to do an average for this. We know that we have 80 plus 74 plus 78. And then, like it said, it's the final's worth 2 grades, so I'm going to say time plus 2n. And then I'm going to divide that by 1, 2, 3, and these counts as 2 grades, 4, 5. So we'll divide it by 5. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do on this is times both sides by 5. When I do that, these 5's cancel, and I'll have 80 plus 74 plus 78 plus 2n is greater than or equal to 400. I'm going to combine these 3 numbers to make it a little bit simpler. Okay, so we have 232 plus 2n is greater than or equal to 400. We would subtract 232. So then I will have 9 minus 3 is 68. 168, 2n. If I divide everything by 2, my final score would be 84. I would need to get at least an 84 in order to get a B in the course. Okay, so on this last problem, we can rent a car from Continental Rental for $80 per week plus 25 cents a mile. So we know that we're going to start with 80 and we're going to add 0.25 a mile. How many miles can you travel if you can spend at most $400? So we have to be less than $400. So we have our equation set up here. We're going to subtract 80 from both sides. We'll have 0.25 m is less than or equal to 320. And then we'll divide both sides by 0.25. So the miles that we can go on is 1,280. So that is the end of my video for today.